Welcome to Open House, the real estate and mortgage show on News Talk 580 CFRA.
With Frank Napolitano and Paul Rushforth, here is Steve Gregory.
Coming off another beautiful week in Ottawa. Wasn't it gorgeous out?
You were inside the whole week, weren't you?
Unbelievable.
Well, hold on. We're getting 3 nice days, though. We're getting Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday are in the low 20s and sunny, which is nice. But then we're getting back to rain after that. So
at least it's going to be warmer.
It'll be warmer.
This is
nice.
Crazy.
This felt like the end of October.
Yeah.
Like that's what it felt like.
Yeah.
Great.
Greg, did you put the snow pictures back up?
Yeah. No, it was an interesting week because, of course, and I feel bad for some of the clients, but like, can please make sure the photos are on a sunny day of the house? And I'm like, if I could change the weather, I would. I'd be bribing brides and football teams for nice days.
Doesn't Photoshop do that for you?
It's good, but it's not quite that good.
And it's tough. Greg shot one of my houses when I sold my last one a few years ago, and it was kind of a rainy day. And the problem with it is because it was raining down the shingles, it actually made the shingles look a little bit older, like almost like stained shingles. So it's tough on when it is raining. I mean, everyone wants that sunny day. You want that beautiful blue sky in the back. But the reality is in springtime, not every day is going to be a beautiful sunny day. And
yeah, but this week has been like...
Yeah, you notice the people's mood, too. Like the week before, I was saying those 3-4 days it was sunny and warm.
Oh, what a difference.
Everybody was happy, walking. Yeah. And this week you look at people and they're miserable. They just...
But you know what? It's depressing. The real estate market is not sleeping right now. I can tell you that right now. In fact, one of my agents sent out an email halfway through the week and said, hey, guys, just want to get your sense on what's going on in the market. I find it a little bit slow. My listings aren't getting as many showings as I thought they'd get. And I was like, what? And then I was talking to some of my agents because we had a client event this morning. I was talking to some of my agents, and they're like, was so-and-so out to lunch on this one? Because my listing, I hit the market, and I get 15, 17 showings on it. Homes are selling crazy. I'm super busy. And I'm like, I put a couple listings on myself, and I was like, holy moly, I had 9 showings booked in the first hour. So, but saying that, I had my girlfriend over there for 3 days. Petra was actually painting and staging and all that, so it looked gorgeous. But homes that show really, really well are getting lots of showings and lots of activities. And I've been saying it, if you don't show well and you don't put the work in, we had one house last week. Oh, I said to the agent, I said, did they not drink a painting? Like there's like 17 different colors in there. And she's like, I tried. I told them they had to paint. They wouldn't listen to me. And I said, that home's going to sit now. It's going to sit just because of paint. So
yeah, you don't want different colors.
No, and these colors, whoa, they were bold. They were bold. In fact, Greg actually showed up at the house that I listed to show, and he's like, look at these pictures. So
maroon and olive green and...
Yeah, we don't want to give away the house though, but yeah,
it was an eclectic blend of many colors. I would
nice wording.
But
nice
saying that,
wording.
and Frank will touch on this because we didn't get some great news. We got actually some bad news in what I think could be bad news in the mortgage industry this week. And so I thought we were going to see the market constrict a little bit. We did not see that. In fact, we are in a spring market right now, in a strong spring market.
What a difference. You say it changes every week.
Every week I have a different message.
In the last 3 weeks, it's like 3 different people I'm talking to.
Well, it is, because we went through 3 weeks ago, we had a very stagnant, kind of almost like a boring type of market. I mean, Greg was busy with listings, but, I was fielding a lot of calls from sellers saying, why am I not getting any showings? Then the week after, it got very busy. Then it slowed down a little bit, and this week it's been insane, and I can't see it slowing down because my agents are tired right now. Like they're busy right now with buyers and with sellers, and it's good to see because we're in our average sale price at the end of April was still only up 1.1%, and it's but I think in our number of sales we're actually down in April 11.2%.
Yeah.
So I think when the numbers come out for May, I know our personal numbers are through the roof. I don't know what the board numbers are going to be like. I'm assuming they're going to be quite strong because I feel like it's been a very, very strong May.
Are you seeing the same thing, Frank?
We're seeing strong market. We're seeing people that are they're updating their pre-approvals, which is really good because they're thinking about buying. But you're right. This week was a little bit of a downer because we saw some of the lenders raise their interest rates on 5-year mortgages because the bond market went up as a result of inflation came in very nicely at 1.7, which is below the 2.3. The problem is that the core inflation went up by 3/10 of a point. And the core inflation is much more important than the overall inflation because the overall inflation, surprise, surprise, came down because somehow the carbon tax wasn't inflationary according to the previous government, but it really was very inflationary. So,
but hasn't this also taken the announcement in June or early June? It's taken the steam out of that as well, because at one point 100%. It was 65% we were dropping, and now it's what, 35, 25?
I think Bank of Canada is going to sit pat. Now, all the governors from all the G7 countries got together this week, so I think many countries are facing this problem, the same problem. They all want lower interest rates. They all need lower interest rates because the cost of living is expensive in the world. We're not talking about Canada alone, U.S. included. Certainly Donald Trump wants interest rates to come down, but everything he does goes against interest rates coming down. He's got to learn how to bring interest rates down is to not implement tariffs because tariffs are inflationary.
And he's at it again this week.
And he's at it again now with the UK. Apparently he had a deal a week ago, and now there's no deal anymore. So
now he wants 50%.
So again, this uncertainty hurts the markets, and the bond markets get spooked by it. So now that being said, the other thing that came out this week in the U.S. is the fact that their debt is in overload, which everybody has known. And now it's starting to come to light. All the other expenditures that he's talking about doing now will increase the debt, and they're not going to be able to manage their debt. But again, they're not alone in this. Our debt is over the top. We're not even going to get a budget maybe this year. That's how crazy our debt is right now. But other countries are facing the same problem. So this isn't just a Canada-U.S. phenomenon. This is all the G7 countries, and even the countries that aren't part of the G7 are struggling with debt, overall country debt. So that, to me, points like we are going to hit a recession of some sort. Whether it's a mild recession or a deep recession, we are going to hit one, and the interest rates will come down at some point.
They're talking about second, third quarter this year.
Yeah, the R word is certainly you can't go a day without reading an article that one economist talks we're about to get into a recession. So it's it seems like it's happening everywhere right now. It's just a matter of the numbers come in. The employment numbers. So we've got June 4th announcement. What's interesting is that the one after that is July 30th. So between June 4th and July 30th, there's going to be 2 inflation reports, 2 job reports, 2 GDP reports, and those are really going to be the telling tale as to what happens moving forward. But even economists are saying it feels like we're already in a recession. The numbers, the statistics that come out just don't show it. That's the problem.
Yeah, talk to small business.
Exactly. But the numbers, we know the definition of a recession, so we're not technically in it, but there's a lot of economists who say we are in a recession right now. But you look at some of the markets in the States right now, what they're going through. Like, you don't think these tariffs are really impacting the States at all? My God. Take a look at Florida. Take a look at California. Like Florida right now, their inventory is so through the roof. Keep in mind, now they're not only hit with really, really high inventory, but taxes have gone up, HOA has gone up in the States. Insurance has gone up.
Their interest rates are through the roof.
Their interest rates are
7%.
Yeah,
7%.
And that's one of your. And then keep in mind, Canadians aren't buying there right now, so that's not helping out right now. So Florida's getting hit hard. California, these are markets that Canadians flock to, are getting absolutely crushed right now. So these tariffs, even though they think they're crippling the rest of the world, they're actually crippling their own country as well.
Yeah.
So it's tough. It's tough to see.
So now what do you do? Do you think if you think fixed rates are going to go up?
Well, no, they've gone up slightly, and I think it's a little roller coaster. I think I've said
I'm
many
reading
weeks.
that they're thinking they're going to go up.
Well, no,
they have.
Well, the thinking is they have gone up because the bond market's gone up because of all this uncertainty that's out there. But that's not a long-range forecast. A long-range forecast is still for interest rates to come down. But we're going to go through little periods like we've gone through this week where the bond market spiked as a result of everything that's going on south of the border and north of the border. And north of the border was the core inflation. The core inflation was much higher than they anticipated, which now the bond market has realized Tiff Macklin is likely to sit back in June, as opposed to they were really thinking that he was going to drop that quarter point. So now we're into July 30th, likely for the next reduction. And who knows? He could make it up by doing 0.5% on July 30th if some of the reports that come in over the months of June and July are as negative as some economists think they're going to be.
I think by then they probably will be, don't you?
Well, they should be, because I think we're going to see the unemployment rate again continue to go up. The inflation's the only questionable one. Okay, so now the carbon tax is out. So now we're still comparing year over year. So I still think we're going to have inflation numbers fairly low. It's the core inflation. We need the food prices to come down. We need the shelter to come down. But the problem is shelter prices are continuing to go up. Even if we do year over year, there's still a whole bunch of Canadians that are sitting at 1.89, 1.79, 2.29 mortgages, and their mortgage coming up this year, and now they're at 4%, 4.25%. So that number is likely to remain pretty high for the probably the next 2 years, 3 years, just because Canadians are having to renew their mortgages into significantly higher interest rates.
Is this the year most of those mortgages come up?
This year, next year. So next year's a big year. So next year, 2021 was probably the year that the real estate went up the most, and the mortgages were at their highest peak because people were buying $100,000, $200,000 over list. And I'm just talking about Ottawa. Imagine what the GTA and all the other cities are going through. So we're hitting 2021, which is really the key year to me, which would be 2026, when we're going to see the most mortgages come up. And the ones that are coming up for renewal now are from 2020, where the mortgage amounts weren't that high. Like if you bought a house in 2020, didn't hit that peak yet. It's in 2021 that we hit the peak, and that's when the mortgages are at their highest point. And therefore, if the interest rates are where they are today, that's going to signal problems. I think 2025 isn't as bad as 2026 is going to be.
So we got to get the rates down is what you're saying.
We do.
Yeah,
I think there's pressure for the rates to come down.
100%.
Are you seeing sticker shock from people, or are they expecting it now?
No, I think they're expecting it, and people are prepared for it because they've read that, and obviously most Canadians know that when they got that rate 5 years ago, that was an anomaly. That wasn't going to happen again 5 years from now. What they did expect, though, is maybe rates to be at 3% and not at 4%. So that's a little bit of a shock. But, I say to a lot of customers calling me in a little bit of panic mode to begin with. Oh, my God, my payment's going to double because I'm at 189. If I'm going to 4, that means my payment's going to double. It doesn't double, but it does go up significantly enough that it makes you rethink whether you just renew the way it is or maybe you refinance it because you've got some built-in equity which allows you to refinance it to 25, 30 years, which will allow you to keep your payments maybe in check with what you have.
But we talked about
now.
2021 coming off those really, really low rates, but keep in mind, that's when the market went insane.
Yes.
So we saw some people right now that, yes, they're going to renew into the low 4s, but their house values, actually, some of them have potentially...
Well, not in 2021. In 2022,
2022, but you were going to see some of those where the house values skyrocketed, and actually some of them have come down. So that's the worst part is we're going to see some things...
Still have a lot of equity.
They still should have some good equity, but their rate's going to increase now, and they've lost a lot of equity in the home. So we're...
Oh, you mean the people that bought at the peak?
At the peak.
Oh,
at the end. That's the end of 2021, I feel.
Still,
and not only that, but what I would say to that is that if you got a mortgage of 1.79, you were knocking off quite a bit of principal off your mortgage in that initial 5 years, which will help as well.
Yeah. 521-TALK, 521-8255. We will be right back. Come back. Is it sunny yet?
Not sunny, and it won't be all weekend, Stephen. This is the time to see what the foundations are made of, that's for sure.
Yeah, no kidding, huh?
Yeah, I mean, if you have any leaks or any issues with the foundation, now's the time to find that out. So it's
good to hear that the market is picking up again, though.
It is really picked up.
It's like a whole different environment.
It's really, really picked up, and I feel like no matter what the May numbers bring, because keep in mind we did have we still have the tariffs, we still have the election, we still have all that sort of the aftermath mixed in there. I know that our numbers are through the roof. I mean, I think we did about 60, 65 sales last May. We're going to blow that out of the water. Greg's probably by the end of the month, he's probably listed not double, but a ton more than he listed last year at this time. I know for the last 3 weeks, Greg and I are supposed to be shooting videos and all that stuff, and I can't even get into his calendar to shoot these videos because his calendar's so busy. I listed a house this week, and I gave him 1 week's notice for photography, and he's like, I got one spot. It's Thursday afternoon. I'm like, I'll take it. I'll take it. Yeah, so he's swamped, and I know the one night Greg's like, I started, him and I are usually texting at 6 o'clock in the morning, so I know when he starts. And there's one day he's like, I'm not going to get home till probably 8 o'clock tonight. So it's
last year. Try to refresh my memory. We had no spring. Did we have a summer last year?
We had a better summer, but our spring was very delayed. We really didn't have a spring last year. So, you'll see the numbers reflect that when it's March over March, April over April, May over May. But we did have a decent summer, and I'm expecting that too. I mean, when the election came, it slowed things down. It probably slowed them down for maybe 10 days to 2 weeks before the election, maybe a week to 10 days after the election, we saw a little bit of a slowdown in the markets. Jan and Feb are really just starting to pick up. So, the spring market is really based on March, April, May, and potentially some of June. And And, we did see a bit of a slower March, an average April. May is starting to pick up now. So we may get a delay going into our summer months. We're definitely seeing way more inventory on the market. I know our inventory's through the roof. We're well over 100 listings carrying right now. And I see that's piling up on the board. I mean, when you're showing homes now, I mean, I have a hot property that just hit the market. We had 9 showings booked in the first hour. And usually people will say, you know what, I'll take my time. I've had some people call me saying, I need to get this done this weekend, don't I? And I'm like, you probably do. I mean,
wow.
it's probably going to go this weekend. It may not. I mean, people are still saying, I'm going to shop. I'm going to look for a few more homes. So, but we're not in COVID. We're not in, I'm going to take my time. We're kind of right in the middle of that right now. And if a house shows well, it's clean and it looks well, it's going to sell quick. I'll tell you right now, I could look at our listings and I can tell you which ones are going to sell quick and which ones are not going to sell quick just by how they show and how clean they are and how decluttered they are and things like that. And I'm really putting a lot of emphasis on my agents that, listen, you need to get over and make sure it looks just perfect for Greg's photos. Because I've known, I watch the photos when they come out of our listings, and your eyes gets drawn to one little thing. If there's a purple,
happens to me all the time.
But I was just saying, if if you have a beautiful white kitchen and there's like a purple tea towel that's sitting there that they forgot to move, you notice the purple tea towel, right?
Yeah.
And so you literally have to stage it like a museum. And this townhouse that I put on Friday, I literally said to the clients, I'm like, I don't care what you do, but you don't eat at home. You don't sleep at home. Your house is no longer your house. It's a museum, and you need to get out and get out now because we got tons of showings, and I actually said to the kids are young kids, and I'm like, kids, if you drop a little crumb on the ground, you pick that crumb up because people are seeing anything, any reason not to buy a house, people are finding it. So it's got to look just absolutely perfect right now.
Something to think about, too, is cooking and odors, right?
Well, listen, there's some cultures that cook different types of foods that it does have that odor to it or that smell.
But any kind of food, if you're walking into somebody else's, you don't want it to smell, even like bacon or anything.
No, if you want to get your home sold, you literally have to treat it like it's a museum. So they're like, okay, so we leave for work at 8 o'clock in the morning, we get the kids off to school. If there's a showing that comes in, we won't have time to get home and clean our house. I'm like, then don't worry about dirtying it. You better keep it clean all the time because you could have that perfect showing that comes in at 10 o'clock in the morning to see it at 2 o'clock that afternoon, and you can't come home and tidy up the dishes from breakfast in the morning. You don't have that opportunity. You don't have that option. Selling your home, and I'll be very honest, it's a pain in the butt.
Yeah.
It really is a pain in the butt because the showings are weekends, the showings are evenings. You can't plan your dinners because you're most likely eating out most dinners if you have a hot property, and you have to get out of your house. But do you want top dollar? Do you want it sold quick? Let us do the job. Let us do it right, and treat your house like it's no longer your house, which is tough, but especially with kids. But that's what you got to do.
We're talking pre-approvals before. How long should you let a pre-approval go before you have to go back and get another one?
Pre-approval, the only thing that expires is the rate. So pre-approval will stay intact as long as your information remains the same. So if your job remains the same and if you haven't added any more liabilities, then you're fine because a pre-approval really doesn't change. The rules don't change as to how much you qualify for.
But if rates go up?
But if rates go up, so rates are held for 120 days on a pre-approval, and that's really what you're doing. With the pre-approval, number one is you're trying to figure out how much you qualify for, and then more importantly, you're trying to lock in a rate if we're in a rate environment where the interest rates are rising. If rates aren't rising, then you don't need to worry about the rate part itself, but you need to make sure that you don't go out there and buy a car if you're looking to buy a house, because that car loan could now disqualify you from qualifying for a mortgage. Or
miss a payment.
Or miss a payment of anything, you really... That's, Paul talks about your house being a museum. When you're in pre-approval mode, you need to do everything possible to minimize your debt and not miss any payments. You need to be the most careful that you've ever been when it comes to your debt, because one little slip up and that pre-approval goes from being approved to not approved anymore. That's all it takes.
I actually had a friend 2 weeks ago. We sold his house. He bought quite an expensive house, and then about 4 or 5 days after selling his house and buying this house, he sends me a picture of the new vehicle he just bought.
No.
And I was like, did you by chance talk to your banker or your mortgage broker about what this means to you? He's like, I did. we're still good. And I'm like,
thank God.
But there's some people who don't realize that they go out and they buy this new vehicle and they don't realize, that goes on your credit report, right? Yeah. And now your ratios are out of whack, and now you don't get pre-approved for this big house, and your house is sold, and now lawsuits start flying because you can't close on this new house. So like Frank was saying, you buy a property, you watch your credit. You make sure you're not behind on things. Don't go and buy big purchases. Don't go get furniture and vehicles and all that stuff. Get your house closed, then do all that.
Yeah, not only if you don't wait until you're actually closed, then you're going to need some money for closing as well. So
100%.
Wait until everything is done first.
But Frank, I know his team's really good at this, that they'll actually say, you're really close, so make sure your credit, now everything is squeaky clean going forward. Now, there's other times where it's probably not a big deal. People are fine, go buy what you want. But there's lots of times where they pre-approve people that they're like, you're right there, so don't do anything stupid.
Is that happening more often now?
It's happening more often. I'll tell you what we've seen lately is people that are their cars at the end of life, and they're wondering what to do. And in many cases, it actually makes more sense to just go buy the car cash, refi the house, and people say, yeah, but now I'm paying it over 20, 25 years. Well, technically you're not, because if you increase the payments, if your car payment's going to be $700 a month, then increase your mortgage payment. But if you're going to be tight with that $700 a month car loan payment, then why not just do $500 instead of $700 and give yourself some breathing room, but be able to go in. So I had a couple yesterday, and they went down to one car, and they had a child that had some health issues. They bought the house 5 years ago with 5% down. Now all of a sudden they've got about 35 or 40% in equity because the value of the home went up, and they just bought at the perfect time. So in their case, they need to buy a second car, and they're looking at going a lease or buy one, which is going to be about $300 biweekly. And I said to them, why not just, the car's about $45,000. I said, you've got the equity in there. Why not take the equity, have one mortgage payment, and you're going to be very comfortable. And if you've got extra money in your bank account, you can still pay down your mortgage that way. But at least knowing, because their goal is 3 years from now to go into, so right now they're in a semi-detached, they want to go into a single, but they want to wait 3 years. I said, in the next 3 years, you can build an awful lot of equity. If you take that extra money, now you have no car loan payments, and they run their cars to the ground. The car that they're replacing is 8 years old. So I said, if you get a brand new car and you've got it for 8 years, that's 8 years of no car loan payments. That's pretty good, and that will allow you to be able to go into that bigger home and have a similar payment as what you're accustomed to right now.
And if you take that lease payment and put it on your mortgage, you're way ahead, right?
Way ahead.
I've just been telling people just to call Frank. He'll give him a personal loan. His number is 613. Is that not good advice?
The number you need is 521-TALK, 521-8255. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the show. Paul Rushforth here, Frank Napolitano. Now that Paul is saying the market is taken off again, what do people need to do to be ready, Frank?
Well, the pre-approval is the first part if you're a first-time home buyer, or if you've got an existing mortgage. You want to make sure that, especially if you've got a great rate, if that mortgage is portable, it makes sense to be able to port it over and do a blend and extend or blend and to term. So there's lots of features out there, but do your homework. And I think too many Canadians just take the word of a banker. No, this is the best you can do. You don't have to go anywhere else. Like the minute that they say that should be your opening to go somewhere else. Because if they're telling you that means they're scared of you going somewhere else, and they don't want you to go somewhere else because there's something better out there. And I continually say to a lot of clients to call me, they've got their renewals. Do not take that first offer. The bank is not coming to you with their best rate on that first offer. And if they dare say to you, well, if you go somewhere else and get a better rate, we'll see if we can match it. That should be the first sign of you to say, well, now maybe I don't want to be your customer, because that means I've got to go do some work to go get a better rate when you've got it already. And you're not giving it to me because I've got to go and see if I can find a better rate. That's just not right. That's not the way you should be treating your clients.
Hey, Frank, tell me how you or anyone here as a home seller would deal with this, because this makes me so furious. I see all the feedback from the showings. Do you know I still get feedback of people saying, oh, my buyer really, really loved the house. They love this. They love this. Just going to work on trying to get them pre-approved, and then we'll probably come back. I'm like, you're showing crazy. A house. Yeah. And you're taking the seller's time to get the house ready for a showing and get
the buyer's time.
Yeah, the buyer should get. What I'm saying is, whether it's the bad agent or the bad buyer, that buyer shouldn't even be looking at homes until they're pre-approved. They shouldn't even be looking.
Yeah, but it's up to the agent to tell them.
100%. So when they're showing a home and the agent puts in the feedback, I'm just going to work on their pre-approval. I'm like, well, why are you showing them homes? They're not. You've wasted so many people's times. Like, so when I get that feedback right away, I'm like, okay, step one when you're buying a home, get pre-approved. That's step one. That's not even before I even set you up.
Is that your first question to a client?
100%. 100%. Like, have you talked to a banker or a mortgage broker to make sure that you can afford the property? You're pre-approved, anything like that? No. That's step one.
But you and I both know there's good real estate agents and ones that are just basically surviving, and they're not going to do some of the tough stuff like making sure that they're pre-approved. They're just desperate to get clients sometimes. Yeah. Is there still 3,000 agents in the city, Paul?
There's 4.
There's 4,000, which is more than has ever been. Now, the city has grown, but still, I mean, how many ends last year?
Oh, was there 17,000 or something of that ends?
So that's less than 4 ends per real estate agent. Think about that. I mean, that's not enough to survive on if you're doing it full time. So that means there's a lot of part-time. No different in the mortgage industry. There's some part-time mortgage agents and mortgage brokers out there that do a big disservice to the industry and to the clients themselves because they're not aware of everything that's going on around them, and they're giving advice based on what's in their best interest, and in many cases sometimes selling a mortgage that there's something considerably better out there, but that client has now trusted that mortgage agent to give them what's best for them, and they're not getting the best information, nor the best mortgage, nor the best advice when it comes to a home because they're just desperate to get that commission and will just glance over things and not really point it out to clients that maybe they shouldn't buy this house because here's the issue on it. Instead, they'll pretend like they don't know anything about it and hope that they can get the sale.
So I'm not one. I'll never comment on another realtor. I'm hoping everyone's perfect and do everything right. I'll only say what my team does. And the one thing I can tell you is that we train all the time on even mortgage industry. Like, we have to be kind of an extension of what Frank tells them. So we almost have to be, I've said it before, almost like a mini or a poor mortgage agent. We have to know kind of what the rates are doing, what's a great product before we even send them to someone when they are pre-approved. So they make sure they're getting the right advice. Then they get pre-approved. But as a realtor, you can somewhat know whether someone is most likely going to get pre-approved or not. But at the same time, you definitely want to get them pre-approved before
you don't know what their debt is.
You don't know what their debt is, no. But, there's a lot of times that someone who's downsizing doesn't know anything on their property. There's a very good chance they're pre-approved to buy their next home. Yeah. However, it's still worth talking to a mortgage broker. And the reason is it's not always that can they get pre-approved, is are you comfortable with the payment? Because a lot of people are like, oh, yeah, no, I'm good. I'm pre-approved to $700. But do you know what those payments look like? Well, no. Then they see what the payments look like. They're like, oh, I don't want to spend that much. Okay, so now you might be pre-approved to $700, but why don't we dial it back?
What about lifestyle?
Yeah, why don't we dial it back and now go to $5? Ask what those payments look like. Oh, those payments? I'm comfortable with those. Okay, so you look like you want to buy in the 5s then, even though you're pre-approved to the 7s. Some people don't need to shop to their max. And once they realize what the payments are, and that's what a good mortgage broker will do, not only pre-approve them to a certain amount, but also say, here's what the payments look like if you do buy that amount. And sometimes people are scared off by that.
That's got to be the first thing out of your mouth when you're approving somebody.
Oh, it's the first thing, but I'll tell you, and Paul's right. He has to have basic knowledge of the mortgage business as a realtor. I have to have basic knowledge of the real estate industry as well. So I always refer back to the realtor, but I'll always say a good realtor will help you do this, this, and this. I can tell you this is what you should be expecting. But that's a conversation to have with the realtor when clients say, I don't know what my house is worth. Well, that's what a realtor's for. I can't tell you that. A realtor can tell you what your house is worth. And a really good realtor will do the comparables of houses that are similar to yours and not just do comparables of houses that aren't really the same as yours because they're trying to get your listing and they're giving you a higher amount because that property is just going to sit on the market for longer than it should be and you're not truly serious about selling it.
I went in this week on a listing presentation. It was a nasty, nasty, nasty divorce. And
aren't they all?
Well, the problem is I'm for some reason getting called in on a lot of those, and it's happening more and more and more.
Because they hear the show.
But the truth is, the first thing I said to him as we're going through the house, the first thing he said to me, "What's the house worth?" I said, "Hold on. First of all, let me see the house. Let's talk about you. If your first questions are what's the value and what's your commission, you're missing the whole boat. You want to see what people do in order to earn that commission." But saying that, there's 4 agents they were interviewing, myself being one of them. I was blown away at the values they were told. Blown away. Someone came in at $950. The house was literally worth $800. Literally worth $800.
Just to get the listing.
Just to get the listing. And, I got the listing, but I was $150,000 less than what someone else had told them. But the one thing I did do was be very, very detailed with why I believed it was $800. And afterwards, they're like, well, why didn't I see those comparables?
Yeah.
Well,
and why wasn't I shown by the others?
Why? You know what I mean? I said, listen, if you want me to sell your house at that $950 mark where this other person came in, I said, I'm not doing it, and I can't do it because every agent, every consumer, you, Steve, have access to the exact information that I'm looking at. We just are trained to forensically look at why it's valued at that price. So when I came in at that $800, they were almost a little bit angry that other people came in with such drastically higher amounts. And I said, did they show you these comparables that are identical to your house? No, I saw the one on such and such a street and such a street. And that one, I was like, oh, you mean the 5-bedroom home with a finished basement backing onto a park that's 1,000 square feet bigger than yours? That's the one you saw? Yeah. Would you think that's similar to your? No. Would you think these are similar to yours? Yeah. Do we have an agreement on what the value of your home is?
Well, if I'm a buyer with a good agent, I'm not even looking at that house.
You won't even look at it because you have those comparables too. So you would look at this house, you'd be like, $950 for this? I can get a house that's 1,000 square feet bigger, an extra bedroom, backing onto a park with a finished basement and a pool. Am I missing something? And that's the problem right there. So right now, it is still a challenge pricing homes. Sellers have started to temper their expectations, and the values are definitely more in line now. As we came through COVID and we went through that crazy time, it was really hard to convince a seller that their house really wasn't worth what their neighbor sold for 6-8 months ago because the market had totally shifted. Now it's a little bit easier. Most people know the market has shifted. It's been a couple of years now. Values have definitely come down. Now most people are a little bit more realistic with their price of their home. I'm hoping the agents can sometimes get a little bit more realistic too, but the evidence doesn't lie. It's forensic evidence. It doesn't lie.
Okay, question, Frank. You said banks don't come out of the gate with their best rate. Do you?
Well, generally we do, but we need information. Same thing as, Paul just said, what's my house worth? Well, I don't know. Let me get in there. Let me look at it. Let me do comparables. We get clients that email us and say, what's your best 5-year rate? Well, here's my best 5-year rate. Doesn't mean that you're going to get it because I don't know anything about you.
Yeah.
So if you meet certain credit criteria, if you meet certain...
But they don't have to ask you twice. You're not going to say,
no,
here's the rate and talk me down.
No, because we generally... Now, it's not all about rate too. And I've quickly, had the conversations. Let's get away from the rate for a second. Let's first find out about you. Find out... Because on a straight renewal, you will get a better rate than you will. And, I can give you an example of what some banks do. So banks have products where they have a mortgage and a home equity line of credit. Their mortgage coming up for maturity, and clients want to put those two together. And the banks say, we can't do that. Our system doesn't allow us to put them together. The only way we can put them together is if it has to be redone through a lawyer, despite the fact that they've registered the mortgage for more than what they're going to be required. So they use that as an out. They use the system as an out. And more importantly, what they do is they say, well, on the renewal, we can give you this rate. But if you want to convert your home equity line of credit to a mortgage, the rate's about 0.25% higher. And I always shake my head and I say, but why? Like, I don't understand. If they're giving you that rate on a renewal, why should you get – it's the same money. It's already there because they don't want you to convert it. They want you to stay in that home equity line of credit prime plus a half. And if you're going to convert it, it's going to come with a premium, which is 0.25%, which is totally unfair. And I say to clients all the time, don't get caught up in that trap. If they're not willing to give you that same rate on the line of credit conversion to a fixed mortgage as a renewal, tell them you're going to walk. Like, if they really want to lose you as a client, tell them you're going to walk.
Frank, how much higher is a investment mortgage than usually an investment mortgage than a regular
investment property? So anywhere between 10 basis points to a quarter point. Okay. So
because people sometimes forget that, right? When they're doing their numbers, they're like, "Oh, the rates are 4 point something today, so that's what I'm going to get." But then you add
and tougher to qualify as well for an investment property because a lot of them don't cash flow today. So now you've got to have enough income to be able to substantiate the fact that you're probably going to have a cash flow shortfall, which means that you got to cover that as well. So it's totally like we don't see a lot of investment mortgage purchases today. We see a lot of investment mortgages coming up for renewal. And they're paying a little bit of a premium on it, but they'll pay that premium because, again, in the last 5 years, the equity, that they've gotten is considerable, not to mention the fact that even if their payments go up, the fact that their mortgage is so low because they bought that investment property more than 5 years ago means that the rents, even though the rents may not be now, if they've re-rented it, they're hitting a home run. But even if they have the rents from 5 years ago, they're still in pretty good shape when it comes to the fact that they can still cash flow, maybe neutral, maybe a little bit of a loss, but certainly not a big loss like somebody buying today.
It's hard to find. I'm very lucky. I just put one on the market right now, 622 Shelley over in Train Yards. 622 Shelley. It is cash flow positive and by quite a bit, and it's a duplex. And I was like, wow, not very often, even in a duplex, you're getting cash flow positive. This one's really cash flow positive.
You're right. And it's not sold yet?
It will be after the show. It will be after the show. 622 Shelley in Train Yards.
Is that on your website?
Oh, 622 Shelley, SHELLEY.com.
On your website?
It's on the website. Yep.
521-TALK, 521-8255. We'll be right back. What's the website?
PaulRushforth.com.
Welcome back. Oh, go ahead and cough.
Sorry, hey, a man's got to cough when the man's got to cough.
18 years, he doesn't understand.
$8.99?
Could you... Are we showing
$8.99 today? $8.99.
Next week is our 900th show.
We should be much better.
You know what? So we've
come a long way.
We're 18 years. The best is when I say to someone, "No, sorry, I can't do it Saturday at 11. I actually have my radio show," and they're like, "You have a radio show?" I'm like, "Yeah, for the last 18 years. Where have you been?"
Your staff. Are you talking about somebody else or your staff?
Oh no, that was Petra.
Oh, that was Petra.
What's funny is I learn something every week.
From yourself?
No, from you guys. You wouldn't think you would, after all of this time.
When we first started doing this show, were you going to have a joke there? Is there a joke there?
No.
Because I was waiting for a joke there.
We came a long way, though. I mean, at the first year or two, it felt more like an infomercial, and then we pivoted. We realized
I started drinking.
We pivoted to, you know what? I think our listeners just want to be educated on what to look for when it comes to real estate and mortgages, and I think the show has become a lot better and a bigger following because we went away from being your typical show where you promote yourself as opposed to teaching listeners what they need to know about real estate and what's important to know about real estate and what's important to know about the financing end of buying a house.
We never thought that we could spend 18 years talking about real estate and mortgages every single Saturday. Like, how much can you speak about? And
apparently quite a bit.
Apparently quite a bit. But you know what? We take a lot of pride in being the only real estate and mortgage show on the radio.
But it's worth tuning in because things change every single week. Every week is different.
Yeah. Yeah,
the longest running probably in Canada, number one, and that's great. But Al called last week, who did your TV show.
Yeah.
He called on Saturday, and on Sunday, my wife and I are at IKEA, and this guy walks by, and I'm talking to my wife, and he turns over, he goes, "Hey, you're Frank. I'm Al. We just talked yesterday on the phone."
He's a good dude, eh?
So that, and then we go, we picked up something, and we go to the waiting thing, and some man doesn't know what he's doing, and he says, like, "Can you give me an idea of what I got to do here? Like, what happens?" I said, "Well, you wait for your number there." And he goes, "I know your voice. You're the guy on the radio." It's so there is a loyal listenership there.
So how often do you get, Steve Gregory?
Once, maybe twice.
The only time,
and that was me.
The only time I wonder if Frank's around is when I hear like a really girly, squeaky voice. I'm like, "Oh, Frank must be here,"
Listen, how's new construction doing?
New construction's doing well. New construction's doing really well. You guys, I know what you're segueing here. You would like me to talk about Clement Homes and what's going on.
Yes, of course.
You know what? New construction is doing very well. Charles's products. The one thing we will talk about, when Charles is coming on the radio on the 14th, which is beautiful.
Of June,
14th of June. But the one thing that I love about what Charles is doing with his new construction is, as the rates are still somewhat tough for builders because they're carrying a lot of product, Charles is just forging ahead. And some he doesn't even hold financing on, but he just keeps building.
So what areas is he in, and what's he got available?
Yeah, so Charles Clement Homes is in Rockland. We're doing condos and we're doing townhomes surrounding the Rockland golf course, which is a really beautiful golf course. So we have a couple hundred townhomes surrounding hole 4 in the Rockland golf course. We're on another hole with our condos, which are absolutely beautiful, almost 1,100 square foot condos. And then we also have another project going on right now in Russell. So we have another couple hundred homes going in Russell, in a beautiful area of Russell. And his townhomes are to die for. 3 bedroom, 3 bathrooms, finished basements, just shy of 1,800 square feet. The party wall between the townhomes are all concrete, which is great for sound barriers. He's the only builder that I know. And by the way, his standards are huge upgrades for most builders with granite countertops and upgraded cabinetry and hardwood floors and ceramics and plush carpeting. Those are his standards. And the product that he's delivering, he puts his name behind it, and it is the most incredible product. I'm proud to sponsor. I'm really, really proud to work with Charles and sell all his product and his local.
But all this quality, you're not paying $1 gazillion for.
His townhomes start backing onto the Rockland Golf Course. His townhomes start at $499.
Wow,
like $499. You get a townhome for $499, 3-bed, 3-bath, finished basement. You know, a little bit more with that finished basement, but just shy of, you know, and
they're calling Frank for pre-approval right now.
Well, they should be. They should be, you know, and I think that's one thing that Charles and Frank are going to talk about
good starter home, though, right? It's a good home to get in. I mean, again, you got to be in the East End, and your job may have to be in the East End. Obviously, you're not going to buy in Rockland if you work in Canada. I mean,
we are about to build in the crazy. West End and the South End.
So that'll be good, right? Yeah. Because right now it's very East End focused, but as you go to the West End and South End, then all of a sudden that opens up a whole bunch of doors.
Which is happening because he's got lots everywhere.
Good.
So
that's good.
What's the website?
ClementHomes.ca, but you can also get his product on paulrushforth.com. You can see all his product. And like I said, townhome starting at $499. It's a steal. Absolute steal.
Birthdays?
You'll start off with one that's near and dear to all our hearts, but Barb in heaven would have turned 60 this week. So happy birthday to Barb. And our best friends, Frank and Lily, celebrating their 30th anniversary. And talk about a crappy week weather-wise. They got married May 30th in 1987, and on that day, it was 38 degrees and sunny, and we were in the bridal party, and I got a black tux on, and it's 38 degrees with humidity off the charts, and he's got this old car with no air conditioning. So that's what stands out about that day, Paul? Which is crazy.
That sounds disgusting, actually. that is.
And then my mom, my beautiful mom, whose firstborn is amazing, but that would be me. But
I was going to say I didn't know you were the secondborn. Yeah.
90 years old on Wednesday. So
yay!
Auguri mia mamma, buon compleanno.
Your mother's name?
Rosina.
Happy birthday, Rosina. Happy birthday. 90. Beautiful life. Wow. Beautiful.
Well, she had Frank. Can't be all great.
Well, it can't be great. I mean, there's some bad years in there for sure.
Sure.
About 62 of them.
Yep.
Yeah. Nothing for me. Nothing for me. Nope. Nothing for me.
Want to say hi to all the people that were at the theater?
Yes, we did have a great client event this morning. So really, really proud event. Had a couple hundred people watching a little kids movie, so it was great.
Nice. And weather is good for the race weekend, so everybody stay safe out there, and please support local Canadian businesses and charities.